Thank you so much for attending the Lamrim class, particularly the wisdom chapter. So when we study the wisdom chapter, it is not easy to understand and not easy at all to practice the wisdom. Many of you, including me, so we have been studying Dharma for many years. Sometime you may feel I have been studying Dharma for many years, but I'm not happy. I'm not in peace. I always have a lot of the physical and mental sufferings. Therefore, you cannot see the benefiting of studying and practice of Dharma. Therefore, many of you feel bit tired, bit too much to study Dharma. There's a few conditions. One condition number one, when the problems appears around us, immediately we're not really trying to apply the Dharma. After problems already arise, it's been for few days, few weeks, few years, then you try to apply a Dharma to overcome the problems. So this kind of situation is too late. It's too late to apply the Dharma. Therefore, when the sufferings and problems come around us, immediately we must remember the Dharma, the particular Dharma, how to stop, how to overcome the problems. Then you feel, Dharma is good to practice because I am able to control the problems and sufferings. Therefore, condition number one, we don't apply Dharma immediately, right there, when the problems comes to us. Therefore, we cannot see progress. We feel it bit too much to studying Dharma. Then, condition number two, so we just believe in Dharma. We really believe. We just believe, but we are not very serious about practicing Dharma. We don't have the seriousness about practicing Dharma. Therefore, first, we must apply the Dharma as soon as possible when the problem comes or before the problem comes into us. Second, we not just generally believe. We have to be more serious about our daily practice. When I say daily practice, I'm not saying our daily recitation and reciting or chanting or sadhana. We have we have to be very serious about our daily practice. Mean when our negative thoughts come, we need to tackle right there. For example, you are relaxing somewhere, then suddenly a snake came around you. Definitely you will do two things. One, you just run away from the snake, or you just throw away the snake, or you killed the snake. If you just run away from the snake, there's no guarantee that the snake won't come back around us. So we must need to clear the snake of anger, attachment, desire. Therefore, we have to be very serious about our Dharma practice in our daily life. The condition number 3, we have not having good progress. Because we try to practice Dharma as much as we can, but we don't understand, we don't have the systematic, the order. We don't have all the steps. Sometimes we practice quite very high level, sometimes very basic thing, sometimes we practice in the middle things. We don't have the steps. We don't have the order. We don't have the systematic order how we should practice the Dharma. Then, condition number 4, we always, as a human being, we always wish to achieve the highest, goal in our life. It's nothing wrong. We must always wish to achieve the highest, the superiorest goal. In order to achieve the superiorest goal, still we need to follow the steps. Most of us, without having the proper foundation, without having the proper the steps of daily practice, we always try to jump in the highest goal. We always try to achieve the highest goal. That means at the end, we're not going to achieve the highest goal, the superiorest goal. Also, we won't have the basic things. That means we are fall in between. Therefore, we have to start our daily practice from the basics, from the foundation, and need to move by step by step. Step by step. This is our problem because we always try to reach the highest step, the highest goal. Also, the practice. Also, we always try to, always practicing the highest Tantrayana practice without having the solid foundation. Therefore, I can see, most of you really believe in Dharma, studying Dharma for many years, but you cannot see, you cannot feel, I am become better person, I am, becoming happier person, I am becoming more content person. You cannot see I am becoming more peaceful, happy person. You cannot see my negative thoughts are, more weak than the before, because we have the four condition we have. So today, before the actual class, so how we must follow the steps, how we must apply the Dharma immediately. For example, you feel, you can see, oh, today I'm going to meet someone whom I don't like. You feel. Then you have to prepare. You need, the good preparation, how to control your anger, how to control your hatred. So you have to prepare before the person, come to you, before you see the person, before you meet the person. If you fully prepare how to control your anger and hatred, then when you see the person whom you don't like, then your anger not going to arise. But it arises very weakly. You must notice, oh, now my anger is arising. I must control. Control, not tomorrow, not day after tomorrow, not this evening. I must control my anger right now. Same attachment, desire, ego, jealousy, greedy, everything you must note. When you notice is arising, is already arising, you must apply the antidotes, reduce, control right there. So therefore, we have to be very quick to take action to control our negative thoughts. Therefore, first condition, take action immediately. You have to be quick enough to control whatever negative thoughts arise. Step number 2, have to be not just believe in Dharma, have to be serious about our daily practice. Again, make sure you're not giving opportunity, you're not giving chance the negative thought, let them arise. Then step number 3, the order. So order, look, is because it's sometimes I think you also feel is bit, strange. Also, I also feel very strange sometimes. For example, Buddha Shakyamuni taught Four Noble Truths. You can see that the wheel of Dharma, the teaching is only about few pages. Then somebody must explain the few pages about Four Noble Truths very precisely, detailedly. Let them practice the Four Noble Truths. But many people really don't understand the Four Noble Truths. Then there are so many Indian masters, wrote the commentaries on the Four Noble Truths. Then the teaching become much bigger. Then plus there are so many Tibetan masters, Chinese masters that wrote commentary on the Four Noble Truths. Then the teaching becomes huge. Therefore, those kind of teaching not really stable for 21st century, the people who live in the 21st century as a lay person. Therefore, you need to you need to learn the essence of the Four Noble Truths, essence of the Lamrim, essence of the Prajna Paramita teaching, emptiness. Because we don't have a lot of times. We don't have a lot of great ability to know everything very precisely. Therefore, we need to know the essence. Essence. For example, right now, we are studying the wisdom chapter. The wisdom chapter actually is very simple. All the sufferings and problems caused by the mistaken mind, the anger, attachment, desire, so and so, all of them rooted by ignorance. Very simple. Ignorance arises all the afflictive emotions. All the afflictive emotion cause to engage into action, negative actions. All the negative action cause producing sufferings and problem. So we don't want sufferings and problem. Therefore, we need to stop accumulating negative karmas. Negative karma going to stop accumulating negative karma going to stop if we are able to stop negative thoughts, affect emotions. How we should stop? You can stop, individually. You stop anger, apply compassion. You stop ego, greedy, pride, applying individual antidotes. But if you apply the individual antidotes to reduce individually the negative thoughts, you're not going to fully eliminate unless you eliminate the ignorance. Very simple. Therefore, we need to eliminate the ignorance. Then, what does mean ignorance? Therefore, there's a different views within the four Buddhist schools. Now we are studying according to the Pasangika, according to Nagarjuna. He says, ignorance is a thought, is a mind. Ignorance is a mind which is perceived thing as an independent phenomena. Also, ignorance is a mind to hold all phenomena exist inherently. This is ignorance. So how we stop ignorance? We need to realize the emptiness. Emptiness. So how we should realize emptiness? Then we need to identify the negation, which is we need to negate. What is the negation? The Lamrim already explained self, inherent existence, or the negation. You can say self, inherent existence, independent existence, kind of things exist, not depend on anything. These are the meaning, the concept of negation. So we need to negate the negation. Then we're going to realize emptiness. So this, topic is very important. Also, without knowing the emptiness, then all the Indian master, Pasangika master, Buddha also has said, without realizing emptiness, we're not going to achieve liberation, we're not going to achieve the Buddhahood, we cannot be free from sufferings. Therefore, our main goal, main desire to study Dharma is free from suffering, achieving lasting happiness, becoming Buddha. Therefore, we have to be very serious about knowing or realizing emptiness. Therefore, we should not study Dharma as a general knowledge. Oh, I study Lamrim, or I study Will of Dharma, I study Four Noble Truths. So you're not going to accumulate the number of teaching, how much teaching you received, how many books you have read. No. So all you are studying is mainly focus to realize emptiness. Emptiness. Right? Without realizing emptiness, then there's no way we can be free from suffering. And also another, I think, condition, problem we have, for 24 hours or studying or practicing, we need to focus realizing emptiness, generating bodhicitta. These two are the most important practice. But we have been doing so many different kinds of recitation, chanting, practicing, visualization. We don't put enough effort to realizing emptiness. We don't put enough effort to generating bodhicitta. We put a lot of effort with other things which is not that important. This become our obstacle to have a progress in our practice, particularly the practicing bodhicitta, the practicing the Mahayana path. Therefore, whatever you are studying, make sure you apply the Dharma in our daily life. Then how we know, yes, you can say, how I know my studying, my practicing is on the right direction, on the right track or no? How I know? How other people know? You know your practicing Dharma is on the right direction, right track or not. You will know if you think, if you feel my anger is become weaker, attachment lesser, greedy become lesser, compassion is more compassion, more love, more tolerance, contentment, then mean your direction is on the right direction, right track. You have been studying Dhamma for many years. Your anger become more stronger. Ego become more stronger. Pride become more stronger. You have a very excessive attachment desire. If you feel that way, that means your direction is totally opposite from the Dharma. Dharma facing east, you are facing west. Make sure your direction is on the right direction. You are walking on the right path. So this is I thought I should request or explain before the actual Dharma class. Then last Saturday, we have a short time for revision. Then mainly we talk why it is so important to identify the object of negation very carefully. Say first, important to identify the object of negation. Then there's an extra words, carefully. Very carefully you need to know. You need to identify object of negation. It is not just enough to understand, oh, this is the meaning of negation. This is the meaning of emptiness. You need to identify. If you have a, just intellectual understanding of negation, you have enough understanding, just understanding about emptiness, about intellectual level, not in the practical level. It doesn't help you. Therefore, they say identify. For example, I'm saying, all of you, you must identify the object of negation very carefully. If you don't identify the object of negation, for example, you are waiting for your mother or your friend, your best friend. You haven't met the best friend for many years. For example, your best friend is coming at the airport. Also, you knew, at the same time, your enemy also coming with your friends. That moment, you have a very strong kind of desire, wishing to greet your friends respectfully, welcome, with a great welcoming your friends. Also, you have a very strong preparation, desire to kill your enemy. If you are not very careful which one your enemy, which one your best friend, if you don't have a very clear identification, your enemy and your friend, then instead of receiving your friends, you will receive your enemy. Instead of killing your enemy, you will kill your friends. It looks like big mistake. Therefore, identify the object of negation carefully. It's very carefully, because for us, for example, this is a phone. For us, the phone and the independent phone, essentialist phone, inherent existent phone, for us, we cannot see that, we cannot differentiate. When we try to identify the actual phone, actually we are identifying the inherent existent phone. Because for us, these two are same, look like same. When we negate the inherent existent phone, at the same time, we negate the phone. It's a big mistake. Therefore, you really need to think how things exist. Nobody going to argue with you. You're not going to argue yourself. Things don't exist. Right? Yes, you will believe, you will accept the house exists, my friends are exist, I'm existent, the books, everything is there. We accept, we have to accept, we cannot deny. But how they are actually exist? Exist as what we perceived. Things are exist as according to our belief. or not. So therefore, identify the object of negation very carefully. Without identifying the object of negation, if you try to negate the negation, then you will negate the all phenomena. Therefore, last study we study in the previous before Lama Tsongkhapa, there were some in Tibetan masters who totally negate all the conventional phenomena. They only accept emptiness, no karma, no samsara, no nirvana. So it's happened to us, right? Then now there's a very big argument or big kind of dispute between the Pasangika and the rest of the Buddhist proponent. Pasangika and rest of the proponent or rest of the scholar. For Pasangika, say this is a phone. From the Pasangika point of view, this is a phone. Also from the essentialists, below the Pasangika scholar, for them also this is a phone. Both of saying this is a phone. They are not arguing, oh, this is according to Pasangika say this is phone. Other Sukha say this is not phone. No, they are not arguing this is phone or not. They are arguing how the phone is exist. So according to Pasangika, the phone is exists mainly designation. Mainly designation. Then the rest of the Sukha say, no. This phone exists inherently, essentially. Pasangika says, no, there's nothing, none of the phenomena can be exist essentially, inherently. So this is the main argument. So we start our class from this topic. The last, I think we stop the page number here. Last we studied showing that those systems contradict the unique feature of Madhyamaka. Right? Then I asked you to memorize the stanza from the 60 Nagarjuna's 60 stanza of reasoning. Without looking the book, can you recite the stanza? Through these virtues, may all beings amass the collection of merit and wisdom and attain the true sublime Buddhist embodiments that arise from merit and wisdom. So last already discussed this one. Second, I think we just move page number 130. Below, then the third paragraph from the below. Scholar who are Buddhist, essentialist. Scholar, Buddhist who essentialist. Mean believe thing exists essentially. Mean essentialist. Scholar who are Buddhist, essentialists may have great training in many topics of learning. Therefore, below the Pasangika, all the scholar, they are very scholar, they are high practitioner, they really practice, the three mind training seriously. They can be someone Bodhisattvas, someone can be, follow the Hinayana path, they are very high practitioner, but they do not accept the Madhyamak view, right? Even though they are high learned scholar, but they don't accept the Madhyamaka views. And their dispute with the Madhyamaka is as follow. If all phenomena empty, this is the Madhyamaka views. If all phenomena are empty, lacking any essential or intrinsic nature, then all of the teaching on single existence, nirvana, bondage, freedom, and so forth are untenable. So this is the main dispute, the main argument, right? If all phenomena are empty, lacking, empty of intrinsic existence, empty of essential. If all phenomena are empty, lacking in essential intrinsic nature, then all of the teaching on single existence, nirvana, bondage, freedom, so forth, untangible. So this is dispute, argue from the lower schools. So you must know, this is the main argument between Pasangika and rest of the Buddhist scholar. The Chittamandra scholar, Swatantrika, the first two school. Everybody believe thing exists essentially. If things not exist essentially, intrinsically, then nirvana, like a nirvana, self-existent, freedom, nothing can be, acceptable. Then there's a quotation from the fundamental by Nagarjuna. If all these were empty, there would be no arising and no disintegration. It would follow that therefore the Four Noble Truths would not exist. This is argued from the lower school. Right? Now here again, we have to be very honest. Usually we like to be, like to have a high position. We like to follow the Pasangika. We like to follow Nagarjuna because Nagarjuna is very famous master. If you think this way, you're never going to realize emptiness. You have to be honest. Be honest. You just sit in the center. You need to listen the view from Pasangika. Also, you need to listen the view from the rest of the school. You in the center. Let's say you are purely Singaporean. So you receive teaching about emptiness, about the the Pasangika schools. Also, you receive teaching emptiness about the rest of the school. Now you need to finalize which school will you follow. If you say, oh, I will follow the Pasangika because Nagarjuna is very famous. I don't want to follow, like a Swatantrika, Chittamandra, so and so, because those are not that famous. If you believe this way, we're not going to understand emptiness. So you have to be in the center, be honest, study according to the Pasangika view, study according to the lower school. Then finally, if you think, oh, somehow I think Nagarjuna view has some problem, I don't want to follow. The rest of the school, particularly the what do you call it, the autonomous school, it makes sense for me, then you follow that way, then you will understand emptiness according to that school. Right? Therefore, here look at, if things empty or lacking essentialist, intrinsic existence, then the rest of the school say, then we cannot accept Four Noble Truth, nirvana, samsara, bondage, freedom, right? Now this idea, you need to bring in on you. What do you think? Things exist essentially or empty of essentialist? What do you think? Things exist inherently or lack of inherent existence? What do you think? You need to think. Right? Therefore, this is the main argument. They say that if this is empty of intrinsic existence, then production, disintegration, and the fourth truth would not be tenable. The next sentence, if all things are completely without intrinsic nature, then your word also lack intrinsic nature and cannot refute intrinsic existence. It's argued from the lower school. The first, they say, if things empty of inherent existence, the Four Noble Truths so and so cannot accept, we cannot accept, right? Intangible. Second, if things completely, without intrinsic nature, then the word, the teaching, which is refute the intrinsic existence, the word also must be empty. Then the word, which is established empty, they cannot establish the emptiness, they cannot refute the intrinsic existence, right? For example, let's say, very simple way put, you have a big knife, sword, you have a big sword. Then you said, my sword is empty of inherent existence. My sword is empty of essentialist. Right? You said, you have said. The other said, if your knife, the sword, is empty of inherent existence, how you can protect yourself? How you can protect yourself? How you can kill, how you can, remove your obstacles, because your knife is empty of inherent existence. Your knife is empty of essentialist. This is the analogy for you. Second, the word, for example, the most of the words or teaching from Nagarjuna Buddha, those are the words. All the teachings are empty of inherent existence. Then the words, the teaching cannot establish emptiness, also cannot refute the intrinsic existence, because the words, the teaching are empty of inherent existence. Now you seriously need to think, if the things empty of inherent existence or not. Verbally, easy to say, yes, thing empty of inherent existence. Verbally, very easy to say. You need a feeling you have to say from your heart. You have to say from your heart, not just follow the teachings, not just follow Nagarjuna. You need, very strong reasoning and logics. If you don't have your, very strong logic and reasoning in your mind, the verbally you are saying, the things empty of inherent existence means just is saying, but it doesn't change your mind. It doesn't change your view. If it doesn't change your view, then it doesn't change the samsara. Right? So this is very important to know. Then the quotation in explanation by Lama Tsongkhapa, they say that if the words lack intrinsic nature, then they can neither refute intrinsic nature or prove its absence. They argue from the supposition that if there is no intrinsic nature, then the agent and the object of productions are not tenable. Then neither are process of refutation and proof. Hence, they dispute with us on the ground that the argument which refute intrinsic existence will refute all functionalities. Therefore, the Pasangika refute the intrinsic existence for them. For them, Nagarjuna, Pasangika, they refute the conventionalities. That means when I say this phone is empty of intrinsic existence, when I say for them, this phone is empty. When I refute the intrinsic phone, independent existent phone, when I refute the independent phone, for them, I'm refuting the phone for them same. For them, if the phone is empty of inherent existence, then the phone cannot have any function. There's no functionality. Right? For them same. Also for us, if you really think how the phone is exist, if you seriously think the phone is empty of inherent existence, then you may feel, how come the phone has a function? You can see the contradiction. In a one hand, we say empty of inherent existence. On the other hand, we say the phone has a function. Right? You can see there's a contradiction from the point of view from the lower school. Therefore, when essentialists and the Madhyamagga dispute about their disparate tenets, they debate exclusively about whether all the teaching about second existence and nirvana can be appropriate for that which is empty of inherent existence. So mainly they argue about, things empty or not. Empty or not. Then, according to Pasangika, the things are not empty of inherent existence. Then, from the Pasangika point of view, then there cannot be samsara, there cannot be nirvana, there cannot be karma, there's nothing. If they believe in the inherent existence, then according to the Pasangika point of view, there cannot be anything. Cannot be anything. Nothing can be, able to establish. From the lower school point of view, something exists. The things exist essentially, inherently. Then we can establish that we can believe in samsara, we can believe in nirvana, Buddhahood, karma, so and so. Right? Now you can see there's a huge difference. Pasangika said, within the emptiness, we must establish everything. From the lower school point of view, within the emptiness, we cannot establish anything. So what do you think? What do you think? Hence, the distinguishing feature of the Madhyamaka is the admissibility of all the teaching about secular existence and nirvana, agent and object of production, refutation, proof, and so on, so forth, in the absence of even particle of essential of intrinsic nature. Right? Everything we can establish because of emptiness. From other school, we cannot establish anything because you said everything is empty of inherent existence. They are not arguing about empty or not empty. They are arguing about empty of inherent existence or not. Okay, now I think many of you, attend many times teaching from His Holiness Dalai Lama, also attend teaching from different master from Tibetan master or Chinese master, Thai master. You have been listening, teaching about emptiness. Many of you still think, oh, thing not exists inherently. Very easy to say. For example, what is this again? Please answer. This is a phone. What is this? This is a remote control. This is remote control, not a phone. This is a phone, not a remote control, right? Sure. So when you study very closely, both of them made of plastic, metal, wire, battery, things almost same causing condition. Then how you can say this is a phone, this is a remote control, this is not a phone, this is not a remote control? How you can say? Because both of them not exist inherently, empty of inherent existence, empty of essentialist. Then what's the difference these two things? How these two things we can establish as a remote control as a phone? How? Right? Then slowly we feel, because there's a nothing, we just label as a remote control, remote as a phone. Then you really fall into nihilistic view. You think there's a nothing. Then you really have a big problem. Then, according to the other school from point of view, this is remote control. This is phone. These two has a different essentially differences. They are talking about, there must be something uniquely from this side. This is be remote control. This is a remote control. In order to be remote control, there's something must be essential to say this is remote control, say this is a phone. They really believe, something must be from the object side. Otherwise, we cannot say this is phone, not a remote control. This is a phone, this is not a remote. We cannot say. Therefore, they really believe something must be from the object side. Otherwise, everything becomes, became same. The phone, mobile, table, book, everything becomes like same for us, sameness. So mainly I trying to say you, not just follow the teachings, not mainly follow Nagarjuna, Lama Tsongkhapa, Buddha Shakyamuni. You listen their teaching, study their teaching, be honest, and then determine by yourself how things exist. Then you will, enter into emptiness according to Pasangika point of view, or maybe you can realize emptiness which is close to the Madhyama, close to the Pasangika view, not exactly same. If you just listen the teaching, follow the teaching, don't have a kind of the honesty, just follow them, definitely we cannot really realize emptiness. The next, there's a quotation from the fundamental. The reduction expressing the falsity that all is untangible is not right about the emptiness. Thus, forsaking emptiness as you have is not right for me. They criticize two things, right? One, things are empty of inherent existence. Then the Four Noble Virtues, nirvana, samsara, it is intangible. And also things empty of inherent existence, the words become empty. Then the words cannot establish the empty of inherent existence. You cannot prove the empty of inherent existence. You cannot refute the intrinsic existence. Then Nagarjuna is saying, because this is for us, we don't have any problem. We can accept, we can establish Four Noble Truths, so and so, within the emptiness. You have a problem because you don't understand emptiness, therefore you refute these things. For those to whom emptiness makes sense, everything makes sense. For those to whom empty does not make sense, nothing makes sense. It's a very interesting. Pasangika Master saying, for those to whom empty makes sense, like makes sense, everything makes sense. They're pointing themselves. Then pointing to them. For those whom emptiness does not make sense, nothing makes sense. Right? So Pasangika pointing to them because you cannot understand emptiness, therefore for you doesn't make sense. Nothing can be sense. For us, we understand emptiness. For us, everything is possible. For you, you don't understand actually the meaning of emptiness. For you, nothing possible. So this is the quotation. So I don't think you able to memorize all the lamrim, all the pages. Please try to memorize those stanza which is quoted in lamrim. Then the next, Nagarjuna says that falsities adduced by the essentialists such as if all these are empty, there would not be arising, no disintegration, do not apply to those who advocate absence of intrinsic nature. Moreover, he also says that things such as production, disintegration are tenable within the position of emptiness. So this is the mainly argue. So today until next Saturday, you just read these few pages. Seriously need to think how things exist. Seriously, you need to think. Use certain logic. First, you think everything exists inherently, essentially. You have this kind of position. First few days. Then again, you need to think, oh, if thing exists inherently, essentially, then what does mean inherent existence? What does mean essentialist. Inherent means thing exists independently. Then ask a question. Do things exist independently? Do not things exist independently? There's only two things, independently or dependently. There's only two possibilities. There cannot be, third option. Then thing exists independently. Then why things are changing? Things are changing because depend on many conditions. Right? For example, after we drink, like tea, coffee, whatever, juice, after we drink, we feel very happy. Then the happiness state never stay there forever. Slowly, again, we feel thirsty. Why we feel thirsty? First, we are okay. Now we feel thirsty because the things are changing within our body. Right? That means I feel thirsty because things are changing. Things are changed but depend on causes and condition. So, according to Pasangika, or generally, in a one hand, you assert things exist independently. On the other hand, you believe things are changing. Also, you can see contradiction. When you see contradiction, then surely you need to think, thing not really exists independently, inherently, essentially. What does mean essentialist? Essentially means essence. Have a unique essence, uniqueness. For example, this is a phone. In order to be a phone, in order to establish this thing, I'm not saying the phone. I'm saying in order to establish this thing as a phone, they must have a very uniqueness from the phone side. They must have a one uniqueness. If this is the case, then you take off the cover, you take off the screen, you dismantle all the parts. You really cannot find, this must be the most uniqueness, which is we can establish this thing. I'm not saying this phone, this thing as a phone. When you open this, the remote control, when you dismantle part by parts, we cannot see something which is very essence, uniqueness, in order to establish this thing for remote control. Also, for us, when you study closely, essentialist doesn't make sense. Independent existence doesn't make sense. Intrinsic existence also doesn't make sense. Therefore, thing must be there. Now need to think the opposite way. Thing not independent, there must be independent, right? Dependent or independent. There's only two options. Things are not independent, mean definitely things depend on so many conditions. Right? Therefore, the things empty of independent existence, empty of inherent existence, empty of essentialists. So slowly you can change your belief or your mindset into first dependent, independent. First dependent, essentialist, inherence. You believe that way, that side. Then use few logics and reasoning. Then slowly you change your mindset, your mind towards dependent, empty of essentialist, empty of inherence. If you're able to change your mind that way, then next time when you look at around, then you feel these things very strange, feel very strange. For example, yesterday evening, I think 6:30 or 7 around, I was in the Marina Bay. There's a place to, we can buy the juice for cost only $2. Usually I go there, I buy a juice. I just sit on the wooden floor. And yesterday evening, I was just observing the DBS building, then what you call it, the financial, all the buildings. I just observed the building. Then I was thinking how the building is really exist. Yes, you can say exist on the ground, right? Of course, it exists on the ground. When you really analyze the building, this look like you can see, that all the building is look like kind of look like you look like you really can walk through the building. Look like you can see there's a building. If you study very closely, parts by parts, look like actually all the building, everything look like appear as an illusion. Illusion. If you go more closer, what you can find the doors and window and glass, and then enter the kitchen and bathroom and toilet. Then you go out, right? So when you think that way, then slowly you can feel it's very strange. For me, everything is look like a dream or illusion. And there's one mistake here. When you say, oh, everything look like illusion or delusion or dream, it doesn't mean things are not there. Things are there, but things are not there as a independent. Things are not there as a inherent, solidly. But we believe things are there as a independent, inherent, solidly. Therefore, when we have an attachment towards the object, attachment, we really attach the thing very strongly. We think something there, I can hold on it. Then when you study closely, then you will notice there's nothing I really can hold on. Also, when we get angry, let's say you are very angry with your friends or your family, your husband and wife and children, you are very angry. Angry on whom? The person. You are angry with the body? No, you say, I'm not angry with his or her body. I'm angry with him or her. Where is him or her? Not the body. When you enter, you can see all the organs, all the parts of the body. When you go out from church to behind, you cannot find the person. Then when you say, I'm very angry, there's not such a thing there. You really can be angry with something. But for us, when we angry to someone, we really hold on something very solidly there. Attachment, anger, ego, greedy, everything is same like this, same. Therefore, to remember, Lama Tsongkhapa said, when you refute, when you negate the negation from the very subtle level, if something still remain there, if there's some remainder, then you cannot escape from the samsara, right? You cannot escape. This means when you study how things exist, you have to go by layer by layer, need to cut, need to negate the inherent existence from the root. That means look like none of the phenomena exists from that side. Then attachment, anger, ego, pride, jealousy, everything going to be, reduced. Therefore, you have to be, I told you many times, I repeat many times, be honest, be in the center, look, the both, point of view, listen from, both point of view, and you must follow one of the view according to your own determination, not just simply follow Nagarjuna teaching, Lama Tsongkhap and other master. If you just merely follow the teaching and the master, you're not going to realize emptiness. Next, I think page number, so we just move the dependent arising and emptiness. Page number 135. Dependent arising emptiness. Right? Dependent arising and emptiness. Also, you can say, other ways. Emptiness and dependent arising. Things arise dependently because things are empty of inherent existence. Things are empty of inherent existence because things exist dependently. Yes, these two always go together. Dependent arising and emptiness. How it is that all of secular existence and nirvana is possible in the system that asserts emptiness is the question. Please read this question a few times. Question: how is it that all of secular existence and nirvana is possible in a system that asserts emptiness? The answer here, as I will explain below, proponent of the view that all things are empty of intrinsic existence argue that this is possible by reason of things arising dependent on causes and conditions. This being the case, dependent arising is tenable within the emptiness of intrinsic existence. Please make sure you're going to remember. Dependent arising is tenable within the emptiness of intrinsic existence. If you're going to believe dependent arising, you must need to believe emptiness of intrinsic existence. Dependent arising is tenable within the emptiness of intrinsic existence. Number one. Then number two, when dependent arising is tenable, suffering also tenable. For suffering may be attributed only to what arises in the dependence on causes and condition. Right? Therefore, emptiness is possible, the dependent arising possible. The dependent arising possible, be possible, then suffering is possible. Right? Therefore, for us, very easy to believe dependent arising. Dependent arising. So what we believe dependent arising is very gross level of dependent arising. Very simple, we everybody know, in order to grow like a tree or flowers or rice or body, whatever, we need a lot of causes and condition. It's very simple. Everybody understand. This is not that, difficult to understand. Second, which is we said, the phone is not exist inherently. Still, this is a phone. This is a remote control. This too is different because of dependent on thoughts and name and thoughts. Also, these two are different because of parts and whole. For example, this is whole. There are so many parts. So many parts come together, then something established. Then somebody label, this is a remote control, this is a phone. For example, 100 years ago, there wasn't a phone. Right? No phone, no concept of phone. Then somebody, put so many things put together. Then they label as a phone, label as a remote control, label as a laptop and computer. That means things established mainly the person thoughts have a thoughts, then they give a name. Nothing more than that. Therefore, dependent on causes and condition, very gross, bit subtle, dependent on whole and parts. The most subtle one, dependent on merely thoughts and name. So we have to realize three of them step by step. First, dependent on causes and condition. Second, dependent on parts and whole. Then dependent on merely or only name and thoughts. Merely designation, right? Merely designation doesn't mean there's only name, nothing there. For example, me, I say, this person, Yunten. This person, Yunten, that person, Lee. Right? We have a same, 5 aggregates. We have a same body. But how I be a Yunten, how the person be a Lee, become a Lee. Before my parents, give a name me Yunten, I was just like as a boy. No, there wasn't Yunten. There's a boy, little boy. Since label as a Yunten, then the boy become Yunten, other boy become Lee. Right? That's mean you can see, in order to function in the samsaric level, we need to label. This is man, this is a female, this is both. We need to label. Otherwise, how we can really able to function things? How we able to use it? If you don't have a concept of MRT, we don't have a name of the bus, then we really cannot move around. We never know which one we go. Bus, MRT, car, taxi, in Uber. So in order to function things smoothly, then we need so many different labels or different names. But none of the phenomena exist independently, inherently, essentially. All phenomena empty of inherent existence. Therefore, here, the first sentence, all things are empty of inherent existence. Argue that this possible by reasoning of things arising dependent on cause and condition. That's step number 2. These beings that case dependent arising is tenable within the emptiness of intrinsic existence. And when dependent arising is tenable, suffering is also tenable. For suffering may be attributed only true what arises independent on cause and condition. It cannot be attributed to what does not arise dependently. When truth suffering exists, then the origin from which is arise is there. That means when suffering able to establish, then there must be cause to arise sufferings. And the path lead to the cessation, that is the stop of the suffering, and the path lead to the cessation are tenable. Thus, all Four Noble Truth exists. When the Four Noble Truth exists, then it is possible for understand the enlightenment to actualize the first three truths respectively. It is possible to cultivate the path. So this is very important. I think everybody must read, sentence by sentence. I said many times, be in the center, look at both view, and you need to, establish the right view according to the teachings, according to Nagarjuna, not just simply follow them with the reasoning and logics. Okay, so we can stop our class here. If there are any question, or if there I must need to clarify, please feel free.
Hu Chen, do you want to pose your questions?
Scholar
Hu Chen?
Thank you, Keshila.
Oh, most welcome.
I just wanted to ask a question. I just want to say thank you for reminding us to stay in the middle.
But difficult, huh?
Yeah, because I after a while sometimes we forget. I'm actually having issues differentiating essential existence and the nature of things. Like heat is to fire, moisture is to water. So the Prasangikas say that fire does not have inherent existence. Yet, to me, it feels that it does. Fire does have inherent existence, because it doesn't matter what name you give to fire. You can call fire something else. Whatever you call it, when you put your hand in it, it will still burn you, because it has that nature of heat.
Yeah.
So when Prasangikas say that the fire is empty of inherent existence, yet it still performs the function that fire performs. So is this, I'm trying to establish the object of negation in this fire and having quite a bit of difficulty. Because like on the one hand we are talking about the nature of things like heat to fire, yet on the other hand we are talking about a lack of inherent existence, or the essentialists say that something from the essence from the fire side. So is the essence from the fire side the heat that the essentialists are referring to?
I think when you say, nature can be, so there's two different meanings. One is a worldly, based on the worldly concept. There's the fire nature is hot.
Yeah.
I mean, the fire is hot. They're just talking the fire is hot. Second, the fire nature is hot. It's not talking about the nature is based on the worldly concept. It's talking about the nature. But you need to differentiate this. There's a big, because worldly say, things, when you go to like Bhutan, Tibet, and Nepal, when you visit monastery or temple, cave, there's naturally arising Buddha, naturally. This is based on the worldly concept. In the reality, nothing can appear, arise, like naturally, means, automatically, must depend on many causes and condition. Yes.
So that's
Second,
inherently.
no, not inherently. No inherently, no naturally, no independently. No,
Naturally rising, when you say no naturally arising Buddha, means it doesn't arise inherently. That's what you meant.
yes.
Okay,
Yes.
got it, got you.
Yeah. Second, when we study about fire, yes, when you put your hand close to fire, you can feel the heat. That means the fire is hot.
Yes.
Hot. When you put your hand close to the water, you feel the cooling, right? Cooling. You have the feeling. Yes, the fire is there. The fire is hot. But the hotness which is you feeling, is not there as an independent fire. We are not rejecting the hotness of the fire, the nature, you can say nature or the function of the fire. We are not rejecting the nature of the water. We are rejecting the independent fire, inherent fire. If the fire is very independent, the fire temperature always must be same. It cannot be same. It's changing different like temperature, right? That means depend on cause and condition. Yeah.
That is very clear. We are not rejecting the nature. We are not rejecting fire. What we are rejecting is the independent fire that arose without causes and conditions.
Yeah.
If causes and conditions
or causes and condition one, you need to reject the fire is not exist without causes and condition. Number two, also you need to reject the fire not exist, not depend on parts and whole. Also, you need to reject the fire not exist without depending on name and thoughts. For example, if there's no like any human beings, they said there's a very island, nobody lived there. Nobody was living there, nobody living now. There must be a volcano, right? There must be some kind of spark. If there's nobody there, do you think still we can say, that when the hotness is, you can say it's a fire?
No.
Because we cannot say fire. Nobody really, have a concept. Nobody have a concept. This is a fire. This is a water. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Next question. Is there anything I need to explain or I need to clarify?
Yeah. Question from MC.
Geshe-la, can I check something about conventional truth? For conventional truth for Prasangika, right? Let's say there is white ant eating up the wood furniture. So to the white ant, the wood in the furniture is their food, right? Yeah. So in the point of view of the white ant, the wood in the furniture is food. But to the human being, the wood is furniture to be used by the what do you call that, human being, and white ant is destroying their furniture. So there are 2 points of view. So who are correct?
Both is correct. Yeah. For example, it's very similar. For example, I give the analogy for many times. You are looking at one house. There are 2 persons looking at one house. One person says the house is very nice. Other person say, oh, the house is very ugly. Both are truth. So the person who said the house is ugly, for him, he established, the building as an ugly building. Other person established the building as a nice building. Actually, the building itself can be ugly or beautiful or inugly. It depends on our perception. The ants eat the like a table or tree for them food. For human, the tree is not food, right? Also, this concept can be changed. Concept can be changed, right? Because in the past, historically, when we say tree, tra, is very particular plant leaf, right? Now today, all the green thing must be tree. Concept can change. The conventionally, the things we said today, we say this is ugly, tomorrow can be beauty. Today is beauty, tomorrow can be ugly. This concept going to be changed. There's not standard concept. We always must be like that. This can be changed, definitely change. Yeah, we can see it's changing.
For Pasangkika, at same place, same time, same condition, there can be millions and thousands of conventional truth. Can we say
Yes,
that?
yes.
Thank you.
It's very simple. Also, according to our age, our eyesight is changing. Even though the medium is kind of like 70 size of letter, when we are young, we can see it's a very big letter. After 60 or 70, we can see the 70 size of the letter become very small. We cannot see. Right? It's therefore, yeah.
Thank you,
It
teacher.
can be changed. Okay, so thank you so much, all of you, to attend the class. And please, read these pages sentence by sentence, and need to reflect many times. Be honest and study precisely and establish based on your own understanding. Not just follow that master, this book, that book. You must have a book. Read the books, Lamrim or other books. Read the books, be in the center, and try to establish your view based on the teaching, based on the reasoning and logics. Really try to understand, the emptiness. So thank you. We can stop here. I don't think there's no point to talk too much. It's the next we study more dependent, arising, and emptiness. Then I think we need to jump, recognizing, identify the object of negation. At the end, as usual, we do dedication is very important, because for more than almost 1 hour, maybe 40 minutes, we spend our time and energy with the Dharma. So definitely we have accumulated a lot of positive karmas. This positive karma, we don't just use ourselves. We share with other as much as we can. Therefore, first we dedicate the merit for becoming Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Second, dedicate the merit to benefit all sentient beings, particularly your friends, your family, your relatives who needs prayers, who need chantings, who need protection, who need good luck. Last, we dedicate the merit for world peace, particularly reducing the COVID problems, overcome the COVID problem all over the world. Gewa junze da ge je tam je zo be jang ju chen bo.